The second part of this training video looks at what professionals can do to improve the quality of care they give to parents after the loss of a baby.
When the Special Care Baby Unit first opened at Wickham 16 years ago, we had parents living with us, and it was really from them that we learnt. They taught us that they were quite concerned about what we did when a baby died, that we seemed to be able to involve them in all the care if they were changing a baby's nappy or helping with tube feeding. But when the baby was poorly and wasn't expected to live, we seemed to tuck the parents up in their room with a cup of tea and take over as the professional.
So what did you learn from that?
Well, we learnt that those parents came back and told us that they'd really appreciated all the care they'd had, but they wished they'd been allowed to be there when their baby died, that they were actually afraid of what went on because the screens went round the ventilator, that they were excluded meant that they thought their baby must be in pain or that death must be something that was too difficult for anyone to see. So we learnt from parents that if we could help them, they would be able to be there and to do all the things that they needed to do. So really we offered them choices and they could then decide what felt right for them.
Not hurrying death, not hiding it away, enabling staff to be human and caring, all this requires a particularly sympathetic style of management.
I think we have to work as a team, and that team has a leader, but everybody else is important as well in that team. We have a porter, for instance, who, I remember a young porter who once came to take a baby away in a small white box, and he was very, very distressed. It was the first time he'd had to do it. But we're very much aware of that situation and we were able to help him. We have a ward clerk who has to answer the phone and answer the doorbell and bring people in who are often sad, and she has to know what's going on. We have cleaners who have to know what's going on. So if we do have an imminent death or there's a baby who is going to die over a period of time, everybody knows about that and we all share with the parents and share in the sadness. I do believe very much that I should support my staff, and it follows down the line that they all support each other.
Kim Cheetham, consultant paediatrician at Wickham, stresses the importance of having a counsellor on the staff to support both parents and professionals.
Yes, I think having a counselling service in any part of the medical sphere where people die, or they feel very sad, or they get very upset, is important. It's important for the people who experience, the patients or the relatives who experience terrible sadness. It's also very important for all the other people that work in the unit, the young doctors, the young nurses particularly, but and us older ones too. We do get hurt and upset by what we experience, and we do need somebody to relate to who can help us with our own feelings.
Providing good quality care means listening and responding to parents as individuals, and it means offering parents choices, recognising that they may not know what to do or what can be done after a baby's death. It is also vital that staff work together as a team, whether in hospital or in the community, and that staff support each other. In Oxfordshire, a regional initiative has provided training for all professionals involved in caring for bereaved parents. In training groups like this one, staff learn from each other by sharing their experiences.
One of the most difficult things I've found is actually doing a delivery of a stillbirth and dealing with that, and then less than an hour later going on to deal with a normal delivery of a live, healthy baby, and the difference in emotions of dealing with the sadness and the tears of delivering the stillbirth, and then moving on and having almost a false happiness for the next couple that you're dealing with the live baby, and that feels very difficult.
The Royal College of Nursing has joined with Oxford Region and this kind of training is now beginning to be available nationally.
I think this is an area that as professionals we share many similarities, and I think in the past we haven't realised how much we need to share and exchange our views. It's not just a midwife dealing with a stillbirth. There is a great lack on the part of the gynae nurses, for example, who can learn from the midwives, and equally the midwives can learn from the gynae nurses. The hospital staff can learn from the community, and it should be a sharing. And that's one really valuable thing that's come out of the seminars around the country, that we've had a multidisciplinary group. And I wouldn't like to exclude the doctors here either, because I think they're part of the team and we need to be working together.
Dr. Bryn Neal is concerned about the management of loss within general practice. As a medical audit project, he and colleagues have developed a protocol for the care of parents who suffer miscarriage.
We recognise that this particular group of people were probably not managed very well in general practice. I'd had a strong feeling for some time that my care for patients who'd experienced miscarriage was very inadequate, particularly afterwards, that there was no formal follow-up care and so on. And so we felt that there was a need to draw up some guidelines about how patients should be dealt with and looked after after they experienced it. And some of the protocol also involves how we actually manage the event. It's essential that the reception and secretarial staff deal with the call as an emergency and allow the patient immediate contact with the doctor. I think increasingly doctors are wanting to look at the type of care that they're giving for patients. They want to look at the sort of things that they're doing and examine it and see whether it's really useful or not, and if it's not, how it can be improved. And I think as they do that and as they look at a subject like this, they will see that the emotional needs of the individual are paramount and that the medical needs are very small indeed in comparison.
One element of good practice is the respectful burial or cremation of all babies' bodies and fetal remains. In Wickham Health Authority, the bereavement administrator, Edith Gildersleeve, makes arrangements for the cremation of non-viable babies. Some parents organise their own ceremony. Others choose not to take part, but are relieved that something dignified has been done. Disposal is a challenging issue. Equally challenging is the idea of involving young children in the death of their baby brother or sister. When Jane and Adrian's baby son Ricky died, they hadn't intended daughters JC and Donna to be there.
Originally, I was very hostile to the idea. One of the nurses at Northwick Park suggested that the girls should be included in his death, and I was quite adamant that they shouldn't be exposed to death at their age. But when it actually happened, we had a phone call at 6 o'clock in the morning. We just piled the girls into the car and went. And now looking back, I am glad they were there. They'd been very involved with the whole process from the minute I fell pregnant, and they were there at the end of his life. They weren't frightened. They were very upset. They cuddled him. Looking back, I really do think that we did the right thing by taking them with us.
When the nurses took the ventilator out, Ricky gave a little smile, and then he died in Mummy's arms. And after he was dead, we went and chose his clothes and bathed him and got him all clean photographs. I felt very sad and yet very tearful because he was my one and only brother and I wanted to keep him.
You know, seeing how the little fella went so peacefully made it so much easier for all of us to come to terms with it, and it was lovely to see him go so peacefully because, you know, you have these pictures in your mind from what you see on television that where death is concerned and everyone seems to be in pain when it's happening, but he just sailed off as though he went into a very deep and peaceful sleep.
We had 5 hours that we really needed to be a family. Although he was dead, he looked just asleep. He looked just like a normal baby. we needed that time to be able to say goodbye properly.
Phil and Jenny also needed time with their baby Samantha after she died. They spent a night with her in their hospital room and later decided they'd like to take her home.
It was just, I wanted to bring her home. She had never been home. This had been her home. The Skaboo had been her home. And we discussed it and we decided that's what we wanted. The funeral director said that was no problem. And we arranged that the day before the funeral she would come home. She spent the night in her room. And what was nice was that the morning of the funeral, the family obviously arrived at our house before the funeral, and they were able to go upstairs and say their sort of final farewells. That was another sort of special moment.
If practice is to improve, then it is essential that all staff who care for bereaved parents receive appropriate training, that policies and protocols are developed in order to guide staff and ensure quality care, that arrangements are made for the respectful disposal of all babies' bodies and fetal remains, and that staff take account of the needs of the whole family after the death of a baby. Caring for bereaved parents is difficult and demanding. All professionals need training in order to do it well. But often, it is the most ordinary human gesture that parents remember and value most.
It was wonderful. Charlie was born exactly 13 months after Daniel had died. And it was virtually all the same staff, and the word went round the hospital like wildfire that this special baby had been born. And we went on to the level, and the sister on the level had actually seen Daniel because she'd been on duty when Daniel had been born. And she obviously remembers, which just goes to show how amazing some people are. And we came out of the lift, and I was in the bed, Dave was walking along, and Charlie was being pushed along in his little cot. And she looked down and she said, "So you're Daniel's little brother." And it was just amazing. It really was. Even my midwife was crying, wasn't she? It was just so beautiful. And I'll always thank her for that. She was incredible.